Welcome back to Beyond the Line of Scrimmage. I am Montana. That is Minx. We are here to talk today about the semifinals of the college football playoff. Miami and Ole Miss on Thursday night, as well as Indiana and Oregon on Friday night.
We're going to talk about the games that just happened. Starting on Thursday night, Miami takes down Ole Miss 31-27. As I predicted, not the way I thought the game would go, in a sense. But hey, man, when you throw numbers out 100 times a year, you hope to get one. We got one. 31-27, Miami advances to the national championship. Ole Miss made it a game when it seemed like all else was lost, and it really felt like they should have lost by a lot more, but Miami, they just kept on shooting themselves in the foot throughout the game, and that allowed Ole Miss to stay competitive in this game, mount a comeback, and get a chance to win the game at the end of it. One of the fantastic games that we've watched this year.
Kind of thought Miami would play a little more defense in this game, but I think Ole Miss was able to get to their short game a lot quicker than Miami thought they would. They kind of neutralized Bain and Mesidor in this game. So credit to them. Obviously, a great game to watch. First of all, Trinidad Chambliss. I mean, dude's incredible. I'm sad that he doesn't get another year of college football, but I mean, a memorable one, obviously, for his last season. Excited for him. Great game to watch. Let's get into some keys here that we had earlier, and then let's see how they played out.
Yeah, so our first big key here was for Ole Miss keeping Bain and Mesidor at bay, and they did really limit their overall impact. Obviously, they were there, they were
Yep.
noticeable, but they only combined for 5 tackles, so they were able to keep it away from those guys and not let those guys be home wreckers, which is typically what they do in most games. And I think them allowing to keep those guys away, not finish plays, and really allowed Ole Miss to stay in this thing. And that's kind of why we saw Miami not locking down, is they weren't able to be those home wreckers that they usually are. And them doing that really started to limit this Miami defense and what they could do. They weren't able to rely on those 2 guys to get them in big pressure situations for Ole Miss. The next one for Ole Miss was letting Trinidad Chambliss do his thing, and they sure did. I mean, he had 277 yards, 1 touchdown. They really had to lean on him once Kewan Lacey went down after that big run. That actually really was probably the biggest blow for Ole Miss in this game.
Yep.
Might be a reason why they lost, honestly.
It's kind of a contrast here because Kwan Lacey gets hurt and they immediately kind of abandoned the run game. In a way, kept him in the game because of how good Chambliss is himself. But then also, you weren't able to bleed any clock on these drives. And then you also weren't able to create bigger plays because they knew you were going to pass it the whole time. So, kind of a contrast there. Obviously, Chambliss was amazing in this game. But had you had a Lacey for a full 4 quarters, I feel like maybe a different outcome. And part of that is credit to Miami's defense, too. Very physical. Obviously, probably one of the biggest O-line, D-line combinations we've seen in a while. And that kind of bleeds into the next key of the game, winning one side of the line of scrimmage. I mean, defensively, Ole Miss did not – I don't believe they won that side. Miami was able to run on them whenever they wanted to. As far as offensively goes, I feel like had Lacey stayed in the game, we would have seen a different story. So I'm kind of not sure about that one. But, I mean, obviously, Lacey was able to crack off a big run in the beginning of the game, but he just couldn't stay healthy enough to prevent much of an impact after that.
Yeah, Ole Miss ended up taking the lead late in the game. Then you thought, oh, hey, is Ole Miss really about to really do the unthinkable? Honestly, almost one of the Cinderella-like stories that
Yep.
we've seen. With how far they advanced and how well they played after losing Lane Kiffin and all that drama. It really felt like almost a Cinderella story at that point. But when that Miami offense took the field with, 3 minutes left in the game, it was a solo shot of Carson Beck and then some of the guys in the background walking on the field. And I just saw stoic, composed. It just felt like they're ready the moment. I texted you, it's like, Miami's going to do something here. Either they're tying this thing up or they're scoring a touchdown to win the game here. I don't think Ole Miss
Yeah.
is watching. If I didn't see that, like, Ole Miss was playing really well on defense at that point. They were starting to take control of the game. They had the momentum. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, they're getting something out of here. You can't win the game without looking like that, being that composed. And eventually Carson Beck, proving lots of people wrong, he's had his doubters all these years, leads a huge 15-play, 75-yard drive and resulting in the game-winning waltz-in touchdown.
When you texted me, you're like, I can't remember something about Carson Beck was going to win this game or something like that. I remember texting you back. I trust the run game in the situation. And granted, there's 3 minutes left to go. You're down by 3. I understand why you don't run it like all the time. But we did not see Mark Fletcher one time on that drive. I wanted the ball to get to Malachi Tony's hands more in the drive. They did once, had a crazy catch that didn't result in anything, but it was still a crazy catch nonetheless. Ultimately, still a great drive. I thought play calling towards the end there was good, but it could have been better. This is partly due to Lacey's injury here. Is Ole Miss's game plan once Lacey went down was to make it quick on the Miami defense. So by doing that, even the confidence of a defensive end doesn't feel like he's going to get home because the pass is already going to be out. So if you're taking away those defensive ends, you're getting to the quick game. It was really on your defensive backs here to keep the situation, keep the game in control. There's a couple times where Chambliss or the tight end ran a post corner. I mean, wide open twice. And it felt like Chambliss was really controlling the game at that point. As far as continuing to win the line of scrimmage for Miami, I thought for the most part they did. Obviously, it's hard to say with the Lacey injury defensively how that would have gone. They were not able to get pressure on Chambliss even when Lacey was down. So I would take that as a good thing for Ole Miss. And then obviously offensively, Miami's offensive line maybe better than Indiana's offensive line. I will say that. Obviously, you have Mark Fletcher, probably one of the best running backs I've seen in a while.
Biggest X factors I would say was Miami's ability to control the game, but also with that control, they lost control of the game by shooting themselves in the foot with these
Yes.
constant false start penalties, just random stuff. But you look at their drives, of their scoring drives. We got drives of 13 plays, 7 plays, 15 plays, 9 plays, 13 plays, and 15 plays. That's insane.
Yes.
Constantly in control, having the ball, moving the sticks. They went 2 for 2 on 4th down. Ole Miss's defense just quite literally couldn't get off the field. But then Miami would shoot themselves in the foot, give the ball back to Ole Miss, and give them a breathing chance.
Yeah.
Ole Miss only went 2 of 10 on 3rd down. I mean, you give me that stat at the beginning of the game, padlock right there. I mean, you're not going 2 and 10 on 3rd down and winning the game. Miami ran the ball also 51 times for 191 yards. Ole Miss ran the ball 21 times for 121, but 20 of those runs went for 48 yards total outside of Lacey's his big touchdown run. So Miami's D-line, I mean, overall, they're playing great D-line and stopping the run game. And
Yeah.
like I said, they didn't shoot themselves in the foot constantly by getting 10 penalties for 74 yards.
Yes.
I think the scoreline would have been favoring Miami a lot more. And like, if you even look at the time of possession, you can see Miami was on the field the entire game. 41 minutes time of possession. I remember watching it. I think it was in the first half, and it was just over 3/4 of the game, maybe even close to 80%. Miami was on the field with their offense. But yeah, 41 minutes to 18 and a half minutes time of possession difference.
Yeah.
You're not going to win a football game doing that unless you have 3 pick sixes and multiple kick return touchdowns. You're just not winning that game like that.
All right, let's talk about the MVP of this game. Personally, maybe an underrated X factor for this team against Indiana. I got Keelan Marion, 7 receptions, 114 yards, and a touchdown. It seemed like every single time you needed a play, he was there. He was your opposite X receiver. The defense kind of keyed in on Malachi Tony, so they kind of shifted more to his side. And then Carson Beck would kind of make the right reads, come back, look towards his left side, and he'd be open. So Keelan Marion, definitely my team MVP for Miami.
Indiana over Oregon in the Peach Bowl 56-22. I got to see this on Skycast, as did you, and it's one of the most peak viewing experiences that you can have in all football and how much you can see there. This game, at first play of the game, I mean, you have a disastrous pick six in a crowd of, probably 80% plus, at least what it felt like for Indiana. And that building just erupted.
Yep.
it erupted, and right there you thought, "Oh gosh, Indiana is going to beat the hell out of these guys." But Dante Moore and Oregon, they did respond, having 14 play touchdown drive after that, and then you start to think, okay, maybe Oregon is ready for this finally. Maybe Oregon is ready to go. Indiana scored 4 straight touchdowns. At halftime, it was 35-7, and then to open the third quarter, they get the ball back and they go out and score a touchdown, and just one of the most dominant games that we've seen, one of the most dominant playoff runs. Yeah, it really felt that there was no chance Indiana was losing this game once they got in rhythm, and they came out ready to play. Coach, what are your thoughts on this game here?
First of all, Skycast should be on every single viewing platform. No question. I really enjoyed that. I feel like, and this might be a stat somewhere, like if you start the game with a turnover, the odds that you lose that game have to be like 95%. Okay. Some games that come to mind. Okay. Super Bowl, Broncos, Seahawks, fumble on the first play of the game, the worst play of my life. Okay. This game, I have some high school examples that come to mind. Just as a coach, just knowing like if you get scored on right away, like the team morale is at an all time low. Okay. You can say it's not, you can do all the bullshit like, oh, like we're still in it, scores 0-0. It's team morale at an all time low. But for them to respond with that 14 play touchdown drive, pretty incredible. Um, it just went downhill right after that. So that's unfortunately the demise of Oregon. I was almost upset at how bad Oregon came prepared for this game. I just feel like they could have done so much better and they didn't, or maybe Indiana was just kind of this Death Star like Ohio State last year, where you just knew that any team they faced, they were going to beat. Oregon played theoretically much better offensively than they did in their last outing against Indiana, where they lost by 10. I mean, as far as keys go, Oregon converted on third down. So they were 8 of 13. One of the keys that we talked about, pressuring Mendoza, they only had one sack on this guy. Okay, so he was kind of flying around at the beginning of the game. Got hit a couple times, but he was able to get back up and make throws all over the field. And then I thought they had to create some turnovers, and they didn't. And then I heard Sean McDonough say, the play-by-play announcer, he said you can't turn the ball over against a team that doesn't turn the ball over. Okay, and Oregon made too many mistakes, especially small things like as far as how far your running back is supposed to be out of your kind of bubble as a quarterback. Okay, you hit the running back side of the head, fumble, running back fumbled as well, threw an interception. Like these are things you cannot do against a team as well coached as Indiana. I mean, they're basically operating as an NFL team currently. That's just how well they're playing, how well every single person on that team is playing. I'll turn it over to you as far as Indiana's keys to the game go. Like, are we on track there? Or what happened there?
Oh, absolutely. Indiana played the game they needed to play, dominated the line of scrimmages. They don't have to. The thing that makes this team so great is most people, they talk about Mendoza. Obviously, he's a Heisman winner.
Yep.
One, they don't have to rely on one or two receivers. It is everybody feast, and it's just not the receivers that are feasting because this offensive line paired up with fantastic running backs who do not turn the ball over. This team has not turned the ball over in over it's close to 1,000 snaps, maybe more than that now. This team just doesn't turn the ball over. They don't give the ball away. I mean, this dude slots the ball perfectly, exactly where it needs to go. It makes the right read every single time. I hear people saying, "Oh, he shouldn't be the top pick. He shouldn't be the top pick." Brother, who do you want it to be? You
Yeah.
want some unicorn quarterback that can throw 90 yards downfield and can sprint a 4.3 40, man. Like,
Yeah.
and he's got to be 6'8".
Yep.
Like, no, this is one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in college in recent history, paired up with a great team. It has just been fantastic to watch. And like I said, you go back to everyone else. Look at the pass catchers. Cooper, Williams, both had a touchdown. Becker, 2 catches, 40 yards, a big play, touchdown, contested specialist catch right there. Elijah Surratt, 7 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. You have playmakers all over the field for him to throw to. Then when you need to run the ball, you got Black and Hemby being workhorses, driving you downfield, keeping those drives alive.
Going back to your Mendoza conversation, I feel like, and we talked about this before the show, we most often associate 5 touchdown passes with 500 passing yards. And just specifically in Indiana's case, it just doesn't need to be the answer because if you turn the ball over at your own 20, I mean, the passing yards are going to be at a bare minimum, right? So Mendoza is putting the ball in the right spot in the right time. His preparation is elite. This is why last week I compared him to Andrew Luck. They prepare the same way. They throw the ball almost the same way. Mendoza is just a little bit taller. We can talk about Dante Moore if we want to, because personally, I feel like he needs another year in college just to show off a little bit more. Because even if he could be the number 2 pick this year, I don't know if you want to go to the New York Jets this year. So, what do you think about that?
I'd agree. You got to stay another year, especially how much money you can make. Granted, if you're a top 2 pick, I mean, you can't compete with that money. And
Yeah,
I see all the time people hating on these kids for leaving for more money or leaving to go to the draft, and it's like, dude, put yourself in those shoes. This is money that you are being given or guaranteed or extremely likely to get that you're not guaranteed at all. You're not guaranteed the next day. You're not guaranteed another opportunity, another contract, one injury or a bad season. You got to take what's given to you, and if it's worth it to you, it's life-changing money. Like, people out here, the people who, like, disrespect these kids, these players and all that, have never been most of them have never been in this situation. If you have the opportunity to go to make life-changing money at the age of, 20, 19, 20 years old, you go and take that. You go and take that. Especially if you come from a place where you weren't born into that, you didn't have all that. You go and take that when you can if you think that's the best decision for you. Let's say you're offered a job and it's gonna give you a time and a half your salary or triple your salary. Maybe live in a cooler place. You're not taking that? If it's
yeah.
something you love, you're not taking that? You're just gonna say, "Yeah, no, I love it here. I love it for the game. I'm doing it for the love of the game." Shut up, man. You offer me to do the same job I was doing for double the salary? Bro, I'm packing my bags, I'm gone.
Moving on to the early national championship previews. Obviously, Miami and Indiana in the driver's seat in this one. Um, Indiana already favored 7.5. Maybe it'll keep going up. Maybe it'll go down. What are your early thoughts on this game? Maybe just whatever you think about this game. What do you think?
So once you are so confident in something, you start to get that little bit of doubt in yourself.
Yeah,
That's what I'm starting to feel. And not like Indiana is doubting themselves. I'm talking about me doubting Indiana. But I stopped doing that. Like I said, last week, I was like, oh man, maybe Oregon's gonna give them a tough. I said 38-24, but I also said I don't think it's gonna be a game. Indiana's gonna beat them pretty handedly. I have full trust in Indiana to completely dominate. I think we're just going to see a dominant performance. I think Miami's going to be a much better shot, give them a much better shot. Obviously,
yeah.
also competing for a title. There's more on the line. I think Miami's going to give them a much better shot than what any other team has been able to produce in these playoffs. I just think it's destiny, but it would be fun to see how well that Miami defense plays against the well-oiled machine, literally robotic offense. And it's not robotic, but and how systematically it cuts you up.
Yeah.
I just don't see a world where Miami can win this with all the they were literally looking at a team that shoots themselves in the foot week in, week out. Not week in, week out, but pretty often.
Yeah.
Versus a team that is quite literally the polar opposite. They are literally the cookie cutter of a team that you would want if you're coaching them.
My early thoughts, and I told you this before, I think going into it now, I would think we're looking at Indiana by, 10, maybe 7 at the best. Definitely have Indiana winning. As far as consistency goes, like Indiana takes the cake in every single category. Miami's inconsistency kind of compares to Oregon's inconsistency, especially when they played Texas Tech. They did make some offensive mistakes like the fumbles, interceptions, and penalties. Those are all things that Miami did against Ole Miss. Not to the same level, but they're there if they're not prepared well. It's basically going to be the same format as far as keys go the entire rest of the way. You have to force turnovers on this well-oiled machine of an offense, then you have to make Mendoza uncomfortable. Like And if that doesn't happen, you might as well be Indiana by 21. So
And has anyone really even actually truly done that this season? Truly made him uncomfortable?
outside of like Penn State,
Mhm.
Iowa, and Ohio State,
And was he even really uncomfortable, though? I don't know if he was really uncomfortable. I think it was just a game, and each one of those games, he led them down to win the game
yeah,
at the end of it.
and he definitely has that clutch factor,
He quite
even if he
literally
is
is.
getting
I
rattled.
think I think that's something that goes extremely under the radar. Look at all the tight games that they played when they were trailing.
Yeah,
Ohio State, uh, Penn State, and Iowa. Each of those games, he led a big drive at the end of the game to win it.
yeah,
Led a game-winning drive. This dude is clutch. This
yeah.
team is clutch. No one in the country has even been able to mount a big lead on Indiana. I'd love to see the biggest deficit that they face this year, 'cause it can't be by much, and those deficits for the points they're putting up right now throughout this playoff run, those deficits ain't nothing. I wanna see this. They were down by 7 against Old Dominion.
No way, it's old fucking Dominion.
It quite literally could be Old Dominion. The most points that they've trailed by all season is 7, and it came on the first play of the season against Old Dominion. So, no matter what, I mean, the most points that this team has been down by has been within 1 possession. You can't build a lead against this team. You can't put these guys in a hole because, 1, they don't turn the ball over, they don't make dumb plays, and you just can't take the lead on them because of that.
Let's just say Miami somehow starts off with a pick six. They're getting it. Okay, so
Mhm.
Miami 7-0,
Yep.
and then maybe Indiana punts, field goal, Miami 10-0 Miami. Do you think, I mean, you have to think they can come back from 10-0
Absolutely.
with how well their offense is constructed, right?
Absolutely, and it's Miami. Miami's gonna find a way to Miami.
This game is in Hard Rock Stadium, home of the Miami Hurricanes. Also, should be noted, especially for the storybook ending, Mendoza's hometown, about a couple blocks away from where he grew up. We also have a question from a viewer on Twitter,
Ooh.
okay, by the name of Galen Iverson, friend of the show. If you had a choice of a new college football team to support, who would it be and why?
I'd go Utah. With Kyle Whittingham. It's the consistency of that program overperforming, consistently getting big time wins, throughout the past, I mean, couple decades now that we've seen it. Just a team that always overperforms. They come in a little under the radar, a little bit disrespected, but always ends up either derailing a season. They're similar to Iowa in how they play, quite literally some of the last old beasts left of the sport. I'd say Utah. I'd say Utah.
That's a good pick. I see. I feel like I think about like the mentality of it. Why do I like Iowa? And well, part of it obviously I grew up here, but like the mentality of Iowa is like we're going to take the hometown kids, the underdogs, the not the biggest prospects, and we're going to make them NFL players. Trying to think of who and what other programs are like this. It's hard to pick. I think of like my brain thinks Michigan State. I just feel like they kind of have that like underdog, like we're gonna out tough you kind of mentality to
Mhm.
their program. After Mel Tucker was there and before he was there, maybe like an NC State, current day Vanderbilt would kind of fit that mold. Like my second college team has always been Texas, just
Colt
because.
McCoy.
Yeah, I grew up watching Colt McCoy. I guess if there's that, if that's the answer, I guess it's Texas. But then like if it's like if I truly had to give up on Iowa, I guess Michigan State would be like my second team for sure.
Mhm.
So great question. Thanks for asking. Kind of all we have for the show today. I believe we're gonna have maybe a wrap up to the portal, maybe a video on that soon, and then we're also gonna have a national championship preview that we have next Monday on MLK Day, the 19th. Are we about to see the first 16-0 team in college football history?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Manx thinks they are. We'll see what I think. Coming up here soon. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check out our TikToks, Instagram, YouTube, all that and more. Let's go.